Now, speaking of Australia specifically, I know that you've been doing a little bit of research in regards to our good friends at the ATO and in relation to taxes.
Well, it's more so what the executive government are doing and whether you should be doing what you're doing currently. Because there's certain things that have occurred over the last 6 months. And one of them is that Anthony Albanese has been referred to the international courts in regards to war crimes. Now, what that does is it makes everyone an accessory after the fact by funding Australian leaders by way of taxation. Now, there is a statute called the Rome Statute. And the Rome Statute provides that under any domestic and international laws of war, citizens are forbidden from taking part in a war on the side of the aggressor and are legally bound to disobey the orders of any government that takes part in illegal wars or supports acts of genocide, crimes against humanity, or war crimes. So it's a criminal offence to contract with them if it's used to fund genocide, murder, or any criminal activity. Now, according to the UN Charter, the Terrorism Acts in every country and the Nuremberg Code, and it also breaches the Kellogg-Briand Pact. Now, it's also a criminal offence to hand over money to a person or an organisation, and that includes a government, if you reasonably suspect that it may be used for a criminal purpose. So, if you're going to be funding terrorism, war or genocide, whether it be directly to a terrorist group or a government, you are handing money over knowingly that these acts are going to occur and that your money may be used for a criminal purpose, and you become complicit in that crime and you can be prosecuted for aiding and abetting that crime. So war was outlawed in 1928 when the General Treaty for the Renunciation of War was signed, and that treaty is also known as the Kellogg-Briand Pact. So it was never lawful or legitimate to wage war or to fund war ever since that pact. The only occasion in international law when the use of armed forces is lawful is when a state is under attack by armed forces who are coming across their borders. So you have the right to protect your own borders, not go and cause war in someone else's borders. So anyone who takes part in a war of aggression on the side of the aggressor, including those who provide the means, money or materials for the commission of that crime, commits the world's worst crime and is liable for prosecution for complicity in murder, war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide. War is never lawful, and it was outlawed in 1928 with that treaty.
Now they're still having wars.
They're still having wars, and countries agreed to outlaw war.
Wow.
It became the legal basis for the Nuremberg Code as well. War between nations was renounced by the signatories of the Kellogg-Briand Treaty, and this means that it has become throughout the entire world an illegal act. So think about that for a moment. Every country got together and signed, or the major countries signed. I believe there was 162 countries that signed. Australian funding and support for the war in Israel violates the Kellogg-Briand Pact and the UN Charter, but by killing civilians, the leaders and the taxpayers of every state involved in these wars are committing murder. Now think about that. Your tax dollar is assisting the killing of innocent children. It happened in Iraq as well. There are over 500,000 children killed. And that's when a lot of people back in the early 2000s stood their ground and stopped paying taxes. Now, under the common law doctrine of joint enterprise, Article 25 of the Rome Statute of the International Court, or a country's terrorism legislation, every citizen of a NATO state who has paid tax since 2001 is technically an accessory to the crimes committed by their governments and is criminally liable.
Wow.
So
pretty serious stuff, isn't it?
It is. Now, you've got to think about what you're doing with your money and where that money's going and what it's supporting, because we currently have troops in the Ukraine.
Absolutely.
People, wake up and start asking questions. Where is your money going, and how is that a lawful use of that money? And are you in breach of these particular treaties that Australia are signatory to?
Definitely, definitely. Where can people find out some more information about that if they want to look into it a bit further?
You can look at the Kellogg-Briand Pact. That's a treaty that was signed in 1928. America, England, Australia, everybody signed. Okay? Go and check that out, and you will see that war was outlawed in 1928, 1929. So go and check that out. We're going to have some posts up on Constitution Watch later on tonight, so all the information will be there.
Excellent. Brilliant stuff, mate. So there you have it, people. There's something to give some serious thought to. A, do you want to be actually, funding war crimes? And B, if you now know that that's where your taxpayer dollars go to, do you want to continue being a taxpayer? These are questions you might want to ask.
That's it. Once you know, you're complicit.
That's it. You can always argue, I wasn't aware, I didn't know, but now that you know,
You know.
there's no defence. There's no defence. So...